good to see you, Chris.
Likewise, likewise.
I'm so glad we're going to do this. I'd just like to introduce you to the camera. Just say I suppose, your name, how you know me, and we'll just take it slowly and surely.
My name is Christopher Duarte. I met Dan. I was literally on Facebook. Your commercial came up, or your ad, and I said, let me give it a try. It's time for a change. I was actually in tiny homes since I went homeless. And
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story, because from my awareness, I met you. You wanted to be part of the boxing gym. You wanted to make some change in your life, and you're one of the people that actually had me develop the program. So it's because of you and your enthusiasm and your words of encouragement to having a better life and willing to change it, not off of me offering anything other than boxing, right? And so there's obviously something very, very beautiful about somebody who wants to discipline themselves and change their lives around. So you were obviously going through some sort of change at the time. Why don't you tell me, because I'm interviewing you, a little bit about where you were when we met?
honestly, my lowest. I can say my lowest. Unfortunately, we don't have full control of what happens in life. And I think it was a journey, and it's still a journey. And unfortunately, I'm one of the chosen ones that had to go through it. I've lived and unlearned a lot. But me, my mother, and my father lost it all. We lost our home, lost our car. Fortunately, our last savings went into just renting hotels till we found an apartment. And the way the economy is and laws are, it's very hard to even find an apartment nowadays. And we slept in the car for almost 2 years, almost 2 years
Wow.
and a half, with my two dogs. It was a load.
So tell me, who is it that you were taking care of in the car for 2 years?
My two parents and my dogs. Both of my parents are elderly, and I've always provided for them. So I felt more than weak, not being able to provide or get an apartment or have them somewhere. It's very difficult. Rainy days, cold days, hot days, sleeping in the vehicle. And my father has Parkinson's, and seeing him shake, seeing my mother worried, seeing my two dogs, it's a little space. We're basically sleeping in an L shape. Get out the car just to stretch or try to find a restroom. It's the most difficult thing ever. I wouldn't wish it upon nobody. I just like to see a lot of people that are going through the same thing I encountered. It's very hurting. It's a hurting thing, and I was still going to work. I'll park my vehicle next to my job.
So you were working?
I was working at Jiffy Lube, and I'll go to work. I'll check up on my parents, take them lunch on my lunch, take them to the restrooms in Jiffy Lube so they could use the restroom, and take a bird shower, which a bird shower is basically you just go to the restroom, you use the sink water just to clean up a little bit and refresh so you don't look as dirty. And my parents were doing the same thing at Jiffy Lube.
You know, I would honestly tell people who are going through that situation, probably makes sense to get a gym membership. I know that sounds wild, but it's $10 at Planet Fitness. It's empty. They got showers. You get even pizza on Tuesdays. You know, that's not a joke, by the way. They're crazy for that one. Okay?
It is very true.
But it's great marketing. So I would just, so other people can listen who are perhaps going through the same thing, like, that is a good purchase. I know you guys can get away with $10 a month, even on a car.
It's very true. I was doing that for a while, but due to our income, my vehicle was on, when I had the vehicle, it was on basically my whole shift.
Wow.
Because of the AC. During hot days and cold days, we had the heater on for my parents. So my vehicle was on gas. There was times where I was at work and I couldn't just leave to put gas on my vehicle because it was low. And then I had to go across the street and put gas. Crazy. And then come back to it.
And so you were making money, you were working, And,
I was working.
You got a job and you were providing, or you were trying to. So I take it you were trying to get some governmental help. Where's the first place that you went during this difficulty?
Honestly, in this world, you learn a lot of things. There is family that is family, and some people learn that sometimes family is a person that you don't even know that becomes a friend. Sometimes you have family that are not even there. It doesn't even feel like you have a family. So we did try to reach out to some family. Some family helped, some family ignored us. It's the most hurtful thing ever, because us as human beings, sometimes we're selfish, or we have too much ego to ask, and we don't want to ask for help. But my mother's church that she attends, they helped us out a little bit.
That's good to
We
hear.
still had to sleep in the vehicle and
Sure.
hotels.
Did you go to any governmental programs to try and get help?
Eventually, we encountered this church called Hope Mission. It's on Venice.
Hope Mission, as in
Hope.
like Hope the Mission? Is
Hope
it-
the Mission, correct.
Hope the Mission, okay.
And this church allows homeless people to shower. They give them a lunch. They provide clothes for those who
Is
don't
that
have clothes.
the navigation center?
No, yeah, it's basically like a navigation center.
Okay.
But this one's actually a church, and there's a different navigation center out here in North Hollywood.
Okay, so great. They had showers for you. What else did they provide?
Food, they try to find us a shelter, and unfortunately, because we had our 2 puppies and my 2 parents, most shelters are women on this side and guys on this side, or an open facility. And both of my parents are elderly. If I'm not there to take care of them, they're basically taking care of each other as much as they can.
How old are your parents?
My father is 81. My mother is 65.
Wow, that's amazing, by the way. 81-year-old father.
Yeah,
hope
his
he's-
mother reached 102.
Wow, what a story. That's
Very
amazing.
strong.
Very strong indeed. Okay, so you have to be there for them because of their age. They simply have nobody else to take care of them. So it sounds like you got some help from Hope the Mission. That's a great sign.
They did. They actually were friendly. They were actually loving, attending. They'll keep us posted on the help that was out there. We also called
let's be
to.
tactical with the help that you got, right?
They
this one.
provided 211. The phone, you could call 211, and they certain times of the seasons they provide vouchers for hotels, so you don't have to pay. But the weather needs to be severe. So 211 helped us with that. Hope the Mission, they try to find a shelter for us, basically, so we wouldn't be sleeping in the car.
Okay, great.
Eventually, unfortunately, my mother and my father, they stayed at a hotel, and I was working, and my vehicle got towed. So then we had nowhere to stay. But Hope the Mission was able to find the so-called tiny homes. They have 2 locations. They located us to the one in
So
Westset.
for viewers to understand, what is a tiny home?
Tiny home is basically a shed that has 2 beds, a AC with a heater, and in this facility, they they give some type of help when it comes to, they feed you 3 times a day. Not gonna say it's the best food, it's not. They feed you 3 times a day, they have showers, they provide you with toothpaste.
Basic necessities.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
And did you end up in tiny homes because of Hope the Mission?
Because of Hope the Mission, yes.
Okay.
My mother ended up there first. They have a tight protocol where I couldn't visit my mom. So they placed my mom, my father, and my 2 dogs first.
Okay.
I had to stay outside
They placed them where?
in tiny homes.
Oh, okay.
In tiny homes in Westset, they gave them a shed. So therefore, they didn't have to share the shed with nobody else. It was just them 4.
Okay.
I had to stay outside, find a job, work, because I got let go from Jiffy Lube.
You were
because-
actually on the street.
Yes.
Wow.
Just thankfully, I have my girlfriend that helped out, her family, and certain times friends and stay awake sometimes and just walk with a backpack filled with clothes. With the last clothes I had, because my storage unit also got
So what stopped you from getting a tiny home or a house or some sort of
a waiting list.
voucher? So a waiting list.
There's a wait
Okay.
list. For me, they were actually just trying to put me in an open facility shelter. I have very weird. I just can't be in an open shelter with others that
What
are.
do you mean by an open shelter?
Open shelters, like basically a gym, a open gym with a bunch of beds, and you can just sleep there. It's basically like jail.
Okay, so yeah, okay. It sounds a little bit like a military
Basically.
base.
Basically.
Okay.
Basically. So I didn't want to stay in there. I'd rather just walk, unfortunately. And eventually,
And where did you get that sort of resource?
from Hope to Mission to Church.
Okay. So they have that. They have
yes.
a place where you could stay.
They find
So
a couple.
you would rather sleep on the floor than you would in one of those beds?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me why?
You encounter a lot of different type of homeless. There's people that are homeless because they can't really afford a home, or the laws and credit and everything, we're not able to afford a home or get a home. And there's people that are homeless because they're drug addicts, or you just see a lot of things in an open facility. I myself don't feel safe because there's a lot of people staying there.
Very valid.
And I get very paranoid, you could say. So therefore,
Well, I don't think it's entirely paranoid. You know, it sounds, I wouldn't want to sleep amongst people like that as well. It's not an easy situation. At least the tiny homes, you have some sort of seclusion. Right?
Exactly.
So for safety reasons, you decided to not take that opportunity.
I did not.
You had to wait in a waiting list. And how long did you wait in order to get the help? What's the process?
Honestly, my mother's prayers and her cries, her everyday cries, they had heart. And my mom kept asking, because I wasn't able to visit my mom. Once you're in tiny homes, you're basically kind of stuck there, and you gotta check in. They don't let you out at a certain time. So from 5 in the morning till 11 at night, that's when you could be out, but you have to be inside before 11. If you don't have a night job or a job in general. She was able to come outside the gate, but I wasn't able to go inside with her and visit her inside the shelter.
Okay, is there a reason why you can't?
Because they don't want people to bring so-called contraband, or the security's there is not enough security to keep an eye on people that are outsiders, and also people that are living there.
Okay. Well, let's keep pushing, because I already know that from the things you've been telling me that you being a threat of contraband is a bit hypocritical, considering that the contraband is coming from the inside of these organizations anyways, and that the security, who's supposed security, is getting paid to absolutely interact and do zero security work. But we'll cut to that a little bit later. Let's keep going with the steps of your particular journey so that viewers can understand what somebody in your situation is going through. And then I'd like you to discuss where you found not only the complications for yourself, but the corruption within the system as well.
If you're on the waiting list, you have to take one of the open facility shelters. And from there, that's when they try to find a tiny home, because the only way you'll get a navigator, which is a person that tries to help you find an apartment that's Section 8, are able to assist you. So I denied that offer, so therefore it was more difficult for me.
So you denied sleeping in one of those like
Open
very
facility.
unsafe beds.
Exactly.
Okay, and because of that, you couldn't progress into the next stage?
Basically, it makes it more difficult, because that means that they have to do more research in the church to try to see where to place me.
Okay, but what if you were like working or had some other place to stay? I'm saying most situations I'd hope are not that bad, is that you can't be, let's say, long term at somewhere else. You might end up on the street, and so you go to a place like this in order to get either a Section 8 housing or some sort of shed, right, for yourself if you can't afford any rent at all, but they just rejected you entirely.
Not entirely. They give you basically a pamphlet
Okay.
of information, as in where to go, locations where they could assist you with living, or find a home in general, or find a different shelter.
So what happened in your situation? Where did you
My
go
mother
from
was
here?
really begging and asking and crying that she couldn't be away from me, because we really are never away from each other.
Oh, so you're taking care of them. So
Exactly.
an 81-year-old man is not too easy to take care of as a 65-year-old woman.
Exactly. So they took heart on her. My mother's very a loving person, so everybody just
Good.
loves my mother. And thankfully they were able to have an opening, because
Okay.
at tiny homes, unless one of the people there get a home or get
An apartment.
terminated, or because you could get kicked
Okay.
out,
Oh, okay.
that's when an opening opens and the person on the list goes next.
Okay.
Thankfully, I was able to skip that because of my mother, and I take care of them, and they were able to put me inside the tiny homes.
Got it.
And I waited about 3 weeks before.
weeks.
Yeah, they were placed in first. It took my parents. It took 3 months before they got an apartment. I'm thankful for that. I'm very am. I'll get to my part shortly, but it took them 3 months being in tiny homes to get an apartment. It did take time. It was difficult. But once they placed me inside, they gave me ground rules of things to do, things not to do, which is don't bring contraband, no knives, no guns, no drugs. Which is very contradicting, because they provide you with a locker, but the locker is outside of the facility where you're able to store anything from a lighter to cigarettes to drugs to weed to anything. As long as it's not inside the facility, they say it's A-okay, which I think that's not okay, because if you're in that facility, it's because you need help. I think there's different type of helps out here. There's, for people that are, they have mental issues. There's mental homes for people that are drug addicts. They have sober
Clinics.
living.
Yeah, they have clinics.
And people that are actually homeless and can't afford a home or get into a home.
Again, they also have asylums as well.
Exactly.
There are other places for people who are unwell and don't want to get better.
Exactly. And in this location is a mixture of everything.
Okay.
A mixture of everything, and that's where my alert started, because my parents were there, and made me worried because I can't go inside, and I can't trust.
What are you seeing as the problem? Because from my understanding, you went from having no help to having some sort of help, even though it was difficult.
It was.
And you had these resources. So where does the disconnect come from?
So when you go to church, to the Hope the Mission, the church, that they give you a caseworker. You switch caseworkers so much, it's pretty annoying, because you don't know who to believe, who to trust, who to explain to, who to rely on. They give you a caseworker that helps you find a shelter. Once you find a shelter, they pass you on to another caseworker, which is part of the shelter or the tiny home. From that caseworker from the church, I went into a different caseworker from the tiny homes. That caseworker basically gives, you have to check in with her 2 times a week. You gotta let her know anything that's bothering you, or if you need therapy or whatever the issue is, or if you have any concerns, you could go to her from Monday to Friday.
Okay.
They also provide a navigator, which is basically another caseworker, but the navigator is supposed to look for a home for you of a Section 8 if you're working, if you're next on the list, because there is a list of every single person that's in that tiny home.
Got it.
The tiny homes are actually...
Okay, so as a concept, that's perfectly fine, which means that there's somebody who's here to support and help you get your questions answered, and then there's a separate person who's supposed to be looking for an apartment for you to be in, because the tiny home is really only a transition
Correct.
for you to get an apartment.
Correct.
Okay, but there's limited apartments, and so they put you in the tiny home.
Correct.
Okay.
And not only that, but the navigators also, they're part of Hope, the mission, but they're a separate program, which I don't know what the program exactly their name is, but there's two separate programs that have navigators and help you.
Okay.
But it's ran by the same manager or owner.
Okay.
These tiny homes were made by a lot of people that gave, how do you say it? They gave fundings
Okay.
to create these tiny homes. Very famous names, regular names. They put the names on as a placard, so you could see who provided, who gave funding for that tiny home.
There's also plenty of government funding as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
a
sure.
lot, a lot, because there's roughly more than 100, I believe, tiny homes inside that location.
Okay.
And each one is by a different person that gave funding. On top of that, the navigator is supposed to look for an apartment, but there is a waiting list to be able to have a navigator. Once you go in, you don't get the caseworker and the navigator. You just get the caseworker. And you have to be on the waiting list and show that you're working, show that you're having income, showing that you're using the facility and you're there.
Okay.
They do every morning, roughly like about 4 to 3 times a day. They do knock on your door. They do open the door to take your temperature, to make sure you don't have a fever or, close to fainting or dying. They check your temperature. They serve you food 3 times a day. The caseworker could do so much when you do have a navigator, because all she could do is really inform the navigator of
your personal situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the navigator, she could choose or not choose to help you or see what she could find. I know there's a lot of vacant apartments out here, especially that are Section 8 is very tough, because Section 8 was stopped and then brought up again, and the funding in Section 8 is very, the balance there is very ups and downs. I could say living there is not the best.
I take it's not going to be great, considering it's a very last case scenario.
It is, but you expect. I don't say I expect the best, because we get what we get, and sometimes we got to be grateful. I am grateful for a lot of things, and I'm grateful for tiny homes in certain aspects. I believe something that is that has funding from the government. Bathrooms shouldn't have rust. They should be sanitized, especially if there's homeless people living there. It should be a clean facility to live in.
Well, especially the bathrooms.
Exactly. I actually got, I could say the itchies, not polka dots. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
But I did get a rash.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Thankfully, it eventually
So
left.
it's not a clean, is what you're saying. No, I would take it. It's not.
There's actually rust in the bathroom. There's not really rolls of paper toilet. They provide you with like little sheets of paper toilet to use. You get sometimes cold water, no hot water. It depends. The bathrooms are ran by a generator. If the generator goes out, who knows how long till you get a new generator.
Okay.
The food, I don't know how I could really compare it to, but it's almost like school food, but it's kind of worse than school food. It's kind of like jail food. It's whatever they just want to put together and they serve it to you.
That's the whole thing. Is that obviously most of the people are in a very difficult situation. This is supposed to be a transitionary phase, right? Mm-hmm. So you told me some interesting things beyond just simple things like food and cleanliness, because my issue comes into the fact that the people who are supposed to be getting the help are not getting the help, and the people who are drug addicts are essentially being funded and kept there as potatoes in these little homes that we're all paying for. And so I want you to tell me what is happening in these actual tiny homes. How are the people living? Are they transitioning out? Are they always there?
I've I've met people inside that facility that have been there almost for 5 years.
Okay.
And they deny offers for apartments, or when they're next on the list, they don't want an apartment because they're comfortable with just being in the tiny home, which is kind of unfortunate because if they have the possibility of having an apartment, they should take it. So anybody else that's homeless and is on the list,
Oh, so they deny it.
yes, you have the choice to deny it. And it's kind of unfortunate because every person that has denied it and has been there for 3 years or 5 years, there's other people on the waiting list. There's other people that are homeless too and would love to
if you're
live
not willing to get better and reintegrate to society, you shouldn't be allowed to stay in the transitionary home. Also, a transitionary home shouldn't be a waiting period of 5 years.
Exactly.
It should be much shorter than that. They should let the people go a lot sooner if they're not getting the help that they need. It also sounds like the navigation center is not doing its job very properly. If there's limitations in actual homes, then they should make people very aware of that coming into it. If we have limited resources, these are the numbers, we're going to do our best. It's going to take between 1 and 3 months. You can stay at a tiny home for that long. Once we get it to you, it won't go more than 6 months that you'll have to stay in a tiny home. They should be giving you expectations on timelines. Do they give you expectations on timelines?
On timelines,
Absolutely
negative.
not. Okay, so
Negative.
you can't really look for other alternatives if you're just going to be staying in these positions. Something else you brought to my attention that's very concerning is that they have security at the facility, but the security doesn't do any of the security work. Do you want to give an example of like what that means from your own perspective?
Honestly, it's not difficult to understand. It's very just unfortunate. I used to be a security guard. I did security for 5 years. And the reason I stopped doing security is because sometimes this security guard wants to do his job, but then this security over here is the Paul Bart. So then people think that every other security is a Paul Bart. So you don't get taken serious. They have metal detectors. I don't think they're the best. They're not allowed on their contract that they signed before they get hired to pat you down. They're not allowed to. They're able to touch your bag and go through your bag, but they can't really physically pat you down. I don't think everything could be really detected by a metal detector.
Okay.
So,
But ultimately, their small process of like going through this is more relevant than what is the outcome. Are people using drugs in these houses?
yes, they are.
Okay, so you're telling me that people are using drugs.
Just-
Is the security throwing them out?
Just recently, unfortunately, may they rest in peace. I don't know the individual. About 3 weeks and a half or 4 weeks, I believe. I think it was 3 weeks. Someone passed away overdose
Okay.
inside the tiny home.
That's
they
expected.
smoked inside the tiny home, inside their shed. The two, because you stay with a bunkie or with a partner or a random, I don't know how to call them, but both people were smoking inside the tiny homes. Me myself, if I ran an organization like this, they're both terminated if they're smoking.
Of course. But they also OD'd, so they're not just like
One of them
smoking.
OD'd.
Okay.
The other one, he survived.
Is he still there?
He's still there.
Okay, got it. So this is just probably one of many examples.
One of many, yes.
You told me an example of a man who had lost his mind and was vandalizing the whole facility. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
This gentleman here, I have no words, because he literally had no words. He wouldn't communicate with nobody. He was in, the word is deaf, I believe, when you can't speak.
Yeah, mute.
He was in mute, but he knew how to speak, but he chose not to. He'll play the fifth, and he wouldn't talk to nobody or anything, but he was breaking sinks, breaking beds,
Breaking doors.
And he did that at least in 1 year. He did, in 1 month he'll
So
do
he
it
was
2 times.
vandalizing the property
And he
for sure.
was still kept there.
And so would the security step in?
Security was not able to step in. They were told to stand by till things get heavier or alter more. And if it alters more, the security needs to call LAPD to arrive.
Yeah, but didn't you tell me that things got worse actually?
They did.
Okay,
Honestly,
so just go ahead and describe how much worse they got.
I was actually in my tiny home and in my shed, and I was just laying down. It's hard to sleep there. It is. It's a hard bed, but it's a little bed. And I just hear slamming, slamming, slamming. I peek outside because I'm concerned. I got a story after that so people can understand why I'm concerned. But so I stepped outside and I see this guy just slamming the door, slamming the door. Nobody was approaching him, no security guard. I see one of the security guards and I was like, what's going on here? Like, you guys can't stop it. We can't touch him. We can't stop him. We can't. He's done this. He's known for this. I'm like, he's known for this and he's still here? Yeah, unfortunately. The security guard was basically agreeing with me that this location, this facility doesn't really do much when it comes to this situation. And they don't understand why those type of people are in that.
Okay, so he's obviously unstable. His mind is not there. He's also aggressive, and he's breaking property.
Very aggressive.
And those are not enough things to stop it.
Not only that, when it's time to go get your food, because they serve food at 9 in the morning, breakfast. They serve food at 1 for brunch, I believe, and then they serve the last time at 6. During lunch, when people are gathering together, because you make a single file line to get food, he'll take off his clothes and in front of everybody, full nudity, just there.
So he's a lunatic. He takes off his clothes. He gets naked. He assaults people. He won't speak.
He won't speak.
He won't speak. And they simply won't put him away.
And they didn't put him away.
Okay, so that person is taking up the resource of a tiny home, which is supposed to be a transitionary to somebody getting an actual home.
Exactly.
So this is part of the problem that's just going on in Los Angeles in general, which is our funding is going to maintain people who are not mentally well and stable, who should be in asylums or clinics, or they should literally be shipped outside of the United States of America. Okay?
I will agree.
A lot of these people are also prisoners and have done terrible things. They should probably be in prison for, if not worse, fined, or I think best case scenario, gathering them up and getting them out of the U.S. Obviously, that's not a typical frame of mind for most people, but our tax-paying dollars is going to these environments, and they're not even able to provide clean restrooms for an obviously very unsanitary situation, which is homeless people, drug addicts, and it seems that you can be in a tiny home for as much as 5 years before they find you a home, which means that navigators and caseworkers are getting paid money as jobs, and security is getting paid, and they're not doing security work, and the caseworkers and the navigators are not actually finding apartments, which should be a relatively simple job. Okay? Let's move on beyond this to discuss something else you told me, that there is also huge amounts of money that when people are being confronted about why aren't you doing your job, right? What is going on? How come I can't get the help that I need? What are the responses that you're hearing from these organizations?
There's so much to cover. It's insane.
Go with before the most blunt and direct.
Before I hop into that, I said I was going to explain why I was concerned. Unfortunately, like I was saying, it's very easy just to take contraband or anything inside because they don't pat you down. You can literally hide anything and still get in.
So you're saying that this is also an easy place to do drugs?
Anything.
Got it.
Anything. You can even bring weapons. You don't know who has a weapon and who doesn't. They actually found bullets in near one of the tiny homes, and they found bullet holes on one of the tiny homes, but they don't know information about it.
Okay.
My information is you could break down a gun and still take it in and still build it inside, or whatever the case is, and you could have a gun inside this facility. I'm supposed to feel safe here, which makes no sense. And that's why I was concerned.
The thing is that if they had active security that had guns on them, you probably wouldn't be so concerned about other people with guns in the facility as well. But since the security doesn't do their work, you're basically looking over your shoulder all the time.
And I feel like the staff there, they're great people. They know what's going on is wrong, but they can't do much about it, which is unfortunate because I blame the higher ups because they should be more.
They're just trying to get paid. At
Exactly.
the end of the day, I think there's less of a care about the transitionary process, or else the transitions would be going smoothly, and we'd be able to qualify people better and get rid of them.
And complete of navigators, there's only 4. And
4 total navigators for everybody?
from my understanding, yes.
Oh my goodness.
So it's pretty bad.
Wow.
It's pretty bad. Funding in this location. I think if so many people gave, what do you say? when
Donations.
people- Donations, correct. If people give so much donations and they're trying to help the homeless, I think food should be different. Bathrooms shouldn't be like that.
Security should obviously be changed.
Exactly.
The navigation process should be smoother with a shorter period.
So
But I want to hear, I don't even mind quoting it myself.
Yeah.
From my understanding from you, you told me that when you were confronting, hey, how come I'm unable to get a home? You're saying, look, we don't have any funding. We're completely out of money. And apparently tiny homes just had $2 billion stolen from them.
And it's
Right
crazy.
now, let's just take a moment there. $2 billion stolen from you sounds a lot more like we are unable to come up with where the $2 billion has been put into whose pockets, and we're going to say that it was stolen. It's pretty hard to steal $2 billion. Let me just make it clear here. So I think the viewers should be aware that here in California, we're hearing a lot of this process. Most of the money is obviously going into the people who are higher ups. That's my tax-paying dollars, that's yours. Here at ISU, we're not funded. We're not funded, we don't have nothing. We're doing it simply because we're blessed to have the opportunity to help people who are in your need. Why don't you go ahead and finish out the process of tiny homes, if you feel there's anything extra there. And then I'd like to talk about some other points as well.
The $2 billion that was stolen or that they kept and pocketed, I actually found out by a different resource, which is insane.
Okay, please tell us the story.
Who I asked. So after your navigator and they find you an apartment, you get placed, basically the person that pays half of your rent.
Okay.
So another caseworker, basically.
That sounds more like a good Samaritan than it does. That's like a donor in a way, right?
Yeah, like a donor, but it's still part of the program of the Section 8, so-called. But I found out through a party like that. And
so again, you're telling me that somebody else has to fund the apartment?
Yes.
What about all the money?
It still falls into
What
Hope
about
the
all the
Mission.
money from the organizations? How come the organization isn't covering half the cost?
I got no words. It's
keep going.
It's really insane.
I'm just hearing this stuff for the first time, so just keep
so
going.
I found out through another party, which is the person another caseworker that basically they help you pay your rent, and they come by your home, check up on you, and they pay half the rent, right? It's still part of the Hope the Mission. This person, I asked for a little advice, and I was like, what's going on here? I'm supposed to be placed in a home. They're not giving me no straight up answer. I'm tired of waiting. I think I'm working, I'm staying productive, I'm doing good.
Also, be clear here, you're also completely drug free. This is something else that people should be aware. These are absolutely the check marks. You're drug free, you're completely clean, you're following by the laws of society, you have a job and you're working, okay? This should be rewarded. Happens to be that it's even more difficult for people who've come out of prison in order to get work, and it's kind of like you guys put the timeline, the state put the timeline on how much time you're supposed to pay, and now that you come out, you're punished additionally. It doesn't actually make any sense. It's going to actually revert people back to crime, which is what's going on, because there's an increase in homelessness, not a decrease. There's an increase in fentanyl use, and all these drugs, and it's really a disaster. You know, my heart goes out to the situation you're going into, but go ahead and finish out what you were about to say.
It's very tough. I'm sorry if I'm bouncing back and forth, but when he told me right now everything is frozen, and I'm like, what do you mean by that? And then he said it's frozen because I don't know if your navigator has shared with you, which she should, but they're not looking for homes for you guys right now, and the list is on frozen because there's $2 billion that has been removed from the program and no one knows where it is. I'm like, that makes no sense. He's like, that's what they're trying to find out. They're doing investigations, so on and so
Again,
forth.
nonprofits are functioning and they're supposed to have these documents as public data, right? So
Correct.
everything that we're talking about now is supposed to be public knowledge. Very few people actually talk about it. But you see, we have phones calling us in the middle of the day when there's a new election asking me if I'm going to be voting for section X, Y, and Z for random clause, telling me, do you want to increase your tax-paying dollars in order to help the homelessness issue? And off the cuff, of course, if you could pay some extra money in order to help the homeless, wouldn't you? But the problem is that it's not actually, people are not getting the help that they need. And me, as an American, as a tax-paying citizen, I'm just getting charged more for these things to get worse. And if the inflation wasn't so bad, then you wouldn't have a problem, I wouldn't have a problem, and a business like me is already giving free services. And let me just be clear, these laws are specifically in California. So this is talking to our Congress, this is talking to anybody who's in a higher position who can hear what's going on, and I'd like to be entirely clear, as a business owner, I'm not being rewarded. As a man who has put myself at risk, who has gone through hell and high water in order to make something like this happen, I have a 10% extra tax that I have to pay to my employees called an employer fee, in addition to all the taxes that I'm going to end up paying because I need to pay my employees by a W-2. Okay? In addition to this, I have a business license, and the more money that I generate over the year, not how much I bring in, how much I generate, total revenue, I need to pay a larger check at the top of the year in order to keep my business license. Not to mention that anybody who has a business shouldn't even have to have a business license, okay? And third, I have an LLC that I have to pay a bill for every single time just to run a functioning and normal business. In addition to the fact that rent well, there is obviously rent that needs to be paid, but I'm referring to leasers, right? So people who are giving out leases, there's a 5% annual increase on your rent every year. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah, I've heard.
And this is just standard lease agreement, which means that if you are a good tenant and you pay your check on time and you're loyal for years, for some reason, because everything is so corrupt, you need to pay an extra 5% every single year, and that's the leaser being nice to you. Okay? So everything is not only inflated, but we're dealing with more and more laws and regulations that simply strip us from having our freedom. The definition of a slave is somebody who makes $1 million and doesn't bring home any money. Okay? That is the definition of a slave. So I'm just speaking out also to people in general that there needs to be a change here in California. You can't just lose $2 billion because at the end of the day, that means that there's billions of dollars being funded into these organizations. That's my tax-paying dollars. That's where all of my hard work is actually going to. And so this is really a call to ear to places around the world to really see what's going on in the drug addiction communities. It sounds like they're not giving people the help that they need, and they're keeping drug addicts and crazy people in those slots simply to pocket money and not give them the help that they need. I think a total solution to this is that people who will not get better should be in clinics, they should be in asylums, or they should seriously be gathered up and shipped out of the U.S., okay? I'm going to make that as ultimately a final statement, but I'd like to know what sort of help you've gotten here from a facility like us. What have we done for you since you've been a part of our team?
You shared a lot, and it's very true. We are the slaves at the end of the day of this world. Before I jump into that,
please.
Very lastly,
No, please.
When they shared that those $2 billion were removed, I went back and I wanted to speak with my caseworker and the caseworker's manager. And I approached them and I was like, did you guys hear what just happened? And they looked at me in total shock. What do you mean? What's going on? Right when I'm this near and I'm next on the list to get an apartment, apparently $2 billion has been removed and everything is frozen. They didn't even know.
No, of course they're not going to let people know. But like I said, it's supposed to be public record, so they should be sending out an email to everybody who has an email and is part of the million different juggling pieces that you have described through an unfortunately very boring and slow process.
And it's,
right?
it's insane
And
because
this is taking up your time. You're a human being who's working and has a lot of
and I still
necessity.
have to check in. I still have to check in, and it's very unfortunate. Sometimes on my lunchtime, I have to drive that way or make my way down that way to check in and go back to work. But that's beside the point. When I contacted my navigator, because I asked to switch my navigator because I felt like she wasn't doing anything or communicating with me of anything that's going on. When I informed her that I was aware of the $2 billion that were lost, she informed me or told me basically, you're not supposed to know that. How do you know that? Everything is frozen, and yeah, you are right, but you're not supposed to know that information. And I stayed quiet. Why? Because there's so many thoughts that run through your head.
No, I mean, it's obviously a very threatening position that she's putting you into. It's smart to stay quiet and
Exactly.
lower your head and move on.
Exactly, but yeah, $2 billion was removed, and to this point, they're still investigating and still trying to find out. But everybody's frozen till the end of June 31st.
Okay.
So
And perhaps this might not actually get the help, so perhaps this is a good time to ask the people and the viewers who are watching that, give the help to a facility like us, or at least help us get the resources, and tell us. That's why I asked you the question of what is it that we've done for you as a facility that is non-funded, and just let the viewers know what's going on here.
honestly, it brings me a smile. Like sometimes it's hard to smile. I even got chicken scare, but it's joy. It's beautiful. It's inner happiness. It's a format of peace at mind, which is very, very satisfying. And honestly, the story of me coming here is something I sit back and I think about, and I get happy and I smile every single time because when I did come to Dan, I was trying to sign up, and unfortunately, my card denied. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know if I shared with you or not, but when I left here, I didn't have enough money for the bus fare. So I walked it back to Tiny Homes. And while walking back to Tiny Homes, my phone's on 2%. So I'm crying. A grown man, you can say, crying, walking. And I'm just like, I can't even afford to box or do something. I can't even afford the bus. Like, what am I doing? What's going on? Like, you feel miserable sometimes. And I was crying and I was just walking home. I called my mother. I'm walking back to Tiny Home. Don't worry, I'm safe. I'll call you once I get there. I charge my phone. She's like, why are you crying? You weren't able to sign up? I'm like, I'm gonna leave it to God. And once I got to Tiny Home and I charged my phone, you contacted me back and you said, Chris, could you come back so we could talk? And you spoke to me about the whole program that you was trying to create and that you've created. And I'm glad to be a part of it. My tears, I even forgot about them. I got happy. I jumped like a little kid, basically. I also met one of your partners as well, Michael, and we spoke through the phone of what I wanted to change in my life and the confidence sometimes we need, because we do lose our confidence once we go through being homeless, and when you used to have things and you go to not having anything and being a nobody, basically. But this place just builds your confidence. From speaking to them, I don't know how you make it happen, but you're always available.
You gotta be. That's the thing, is that I'm a very busy person, and if I can be available for things that are completely extracurricular, when I hear a situation like yours where people have the funding and the resources, and that is their entirety of their job, and they don't give the help that they need, I'm actually disgusted, right? So I want to let you know that you were literally the start of our program, and I reached back out to you on that day to simply take things step by step, because I've been hearing this type of situation far too often, and it's a great blessing to have you as part of our team.
Thank you.
This is huge information to everybody who's listening. I promise you, as just a gym owner, as a businessman, as somebody who didn't necessarily know he's going to get into this space, this information is not typical to get, and people don't really know the stories this is what nonprofits are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be giving the aid, giving them community, being available for them, and making tactical improvements. So your words were very, very kind.
And there is a lot of information they do not share. Sorry for interrupting you. Because when I was aiming for my apartment, they didn't tell me that you could still get denied if you had bad credit. But I thought the program understands because you went homeless,
that you wouldn't have good credit.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
So they didn't inform you.
I don't even have credit, by the way. I'm just letting you know. I don't use your credit cards or anything like that.
But they didn't.
So I would have gotten denied. You know, had I been in a situation.
They don't inform that. They don't tell you.
So they only tell you that after.
I applied for the
I
apartment.
mean, obviously, you shouldn't have any credit score if you're homeless and you've been through
they're basically vouching for you, so there's no credit needed, which makes no sense. This program is filled with contradiction.
Absolutely.
And lack of communication, lack of information, lack of alerting you or making you just understand what they're trying to do for you. That's the difference between them and ISU. Like, you're straightforward, you're straight to it. Motivation, communication, love, support. Like I said before, a phone call away, and I love it. I love it. It's like basically a big brother. This ISU is like a big brother. It's just, it don't matter if he's not there. Coaches are there. People you meet here at the gym, they're there for you. They speak to you. I've found out a lot of people that are going through a situation like that as well. And this gym is just, it's the gym.
Thank you for your kind words. And just letting you know.
Thank you.
You know, you mentioned earlier that you don't have support and you don't have family. We're absolutely your family here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
To many more. All right. I hope this
Thank you.
this really reaches some people.
I hope it does.
All right.